Here we are again. It's Gangstagrass in the house.
Pew, pew, pew,
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome everybody. Let's let's get ready for another hangout with cool people called Gangstagrass.
Oh, hey. My phone just informed me that we're live. Good job,
Oh,
everybody.
what's
All
up?
right. Nice.
All right. See y'all later. I got to go watch this Gangstagrass stream.
Yeah. And now people will be joining us. Yes.
People will actually be joining us on this one too, right?
We have a special guest tonight. Lulu Freisdot will be filling us in on some election protection and voting information that people will want to know about.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. The reliability of voting machines is crucial to the whole enterprise.
And she's done a lot of research on that. So don't even get her started.
Well, but we plan to
Oh,
get
but
her
we
started,
will.
right?
I can't wait to talk about optical scanning machines, which, by the way, are so much better than straight up computerized voting.
And we'll explain why.
We totally will.
See what she says.
Yeah, when do you think that's getting started, or should we just tell
She'll
people to
be-
stay tuned?
I told her to join us at 9:30, so we got a few minutes to talk here, talk Gangstagrass stuff. And,
Yeah. Oh, hey. Let's
Oh.
do my favorite thing, which is find out how many views Ride
minutes to talk here, talk Gangsta.
And the answer is 157,000. This morning, I sent a message saying, "Hey, by the time you read this, the video will have 150,000 views," and that was 7,000 views ago. So,
Dang.
yeah, thanks everybody for sharing this video. I've been sharing it with the people that are my Ride With You people. Anybody that I think of when I listen to this song, I've been sending it to and letting them know that I'm thinking of them when I listen to it.
Anybody out there that hasn't watched the Ride With You video, go to youtube.com/Gangstagrass and find the Ride With You video that will be there.
I literally thought you were gonna read off youtube.com/R capital O undercase. What the heck is an undercase? Just read off the whole. You know what? Let me just do that actually for the record. It is. I'm gonna look it up. All right, youtube.com/watch !V equals uppercase V lowercase W uppercase K lowercase T S Y uppercase T S lowercase E 5 uppercase M. Got all that?
I liked the visual help on the 5.
Yeah.
Stillhill's over here shaking his head at you.
No, I was just imagining what it looks like on the closed captioning.
Yes.
You've
yeah.
done it all in sign language.
Yep. You know, I actually. Never mind. This is a weird thing. I learned just like a little bit of sign language to when I was dating my wife. Not really relevant to anything, but that is the only reason why I know any sign language is because I knew that she knew some sign language. Cool story. All right. Actually, never mind.
Well, so the other thing I noticed at the rally, sorry, but in addition to, all the people crowded together and definitely shouting and spewing respiratory droplets all over.
This is not a rally that you were at, correct?
This is not. No. This was. I watched on both PBS and also on a in Ohio local TV station that was also broadcasting it. So I saw it in both places. I saw the YMCA walk-off music in both places. It definitely was not a choice the TV station was making. It was definitely a choice of the rally. But the really interesting thing was after all of that, partly during Fortunate Son, which was an unfortunate choice. He actually is a millionaire's son.
Yeah.
But there, for those of you who have watched West Wing, President Bartlett, I think there's an actual intentional attempt to make Trump look more like Bartlett. it was really interesting. Like, and I know I'm not an expert of facial recognition, but it looked like there was a whole thing where he was talking after the rally and you could just see his head, and it was a very, very Bartlett-y, which strikes me as a brilliant move.
It's fascinating. I mean, Bartlett was definitely like Jeb Bartlett
Not
is
that
a
our politics
conservative.
should be about that. They
Oh.
shouldn't. But,
Yeah,
you know, I think it is important to notice this stuff and pay attention to it, because if you don't draw any attention to it, then it'll just sort of slip by unnoticed.
Yeah.
And that's much more dangerous.
Well, West Wing was fun because like Jeb Bartlett was a conservative, but he was definitely like a liberal's conservative.
Mm-hmm.
In so many ways.
He was a
Yeah.
He was a conservative Democrat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't he was a centrist, because I know they had characters on that show that were like, well, here's our, conservative character to put into this mix to show how they can talk politics and still be friends.
And also to show how he's not that. Like they would frequently throw these like sort of more ludicrous, further right-wing people at him, and then he would be like, "No way, that's ridiculous. I'm Jed Bartlett."
Right, but there were some that were not, and like one character named Ainsley Hayes that they actually hired on staff, who was a conservative that could talk back to them and let them know what the other viewpoint was, which was nice.
Well,
appreciated it. But boy, West Wing, that was back in the before time.
Boy, oh boy. Remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like before. That's way before. Like, West Wing was pre 9/11. They had an episode about 9/11.
Right. That's right.
When that happened.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that's way back.
Interesting. I didn't realize. Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Just barely. I mean, it was both sides, right? So, before, then after.
Yeah. Hey, folks in interwebs land, what are you watching these days? Tell us what shows you like in the chat, and we will possibly make fun of them, but who knows?
We can't guarantee that we'll make fun of them, but we will try.
Yeah.
Try to get to everybody. So what's up to Jason? We got Suze.
Suze is in the house.
Hey, Suits.
Let's see. Got this.
I think it's interesting that the reality shows are back. You know, like it took them a minute to regroup, but they managed to do it. So it'll be really interesting to see how that goes. You know, can the Big Brother house stay isolated? We shall see.
We haven't reached the point of new programming that's been shot since lockdown and has masks and social distancing and stuff.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Because then you have to worry about then you'll have like, are there enough ventilators for everyone in the house?
Yeah. The new season of The Boys just came out today, and clearly that was all shot before lockdown, and it feels weird.
That's funny.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll probably binge that. I'm still waiting on the new season of The Mandalorian.
That's the one with Baby Yoda, right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Do I ask that
Or
every time I
how
watch
we
that
should
show?
just call it Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
Much in the way that everyone calls Family Matters Urkel.
The Urkel show. Yeah. Yeah, Baby Yoda. That's
Yeah,
the
'cause
show
we
with the
were-
Mandalorian in it, right? Yeah, he shows up.
Because we never were like, oh, Family Matters is on tonight. It was like, oh, Urkel's on tonight.
Yep. It's true. It's
I just
true.
want to make sure that at some point Shaggy manages to write a memoir called "Okay, It Actually Was Me."
I think the Onion or Hard Times or somebody had an expose about that. It actually was Shaggy.
Actually, someday he's gonna write the tell-all book.
Yeah. If it was me, it's gonna be called.
Oh no.
Well, I think the forward would have to be written by Eddie Murphy. Because the song is actually an extension of an Eddie Murphy joke.
Really? It
Yes,
does
from
sound
Delirious.
kind of like an Eddie Murphy thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was in Delirious.
That checks out.
All right, so Suze is watching home improvement shows on HDTV, which is probably a good bet.
Not the show Home Improvement featuring Tim Allen, but actual home improvement shows.
Shows of actual home improvements.
That's too bad.
No, she's just sitting on the couch grunting at the screen.
Yeah.
And was it Benford was the tool company?
Yeah. Oh, so thanks to something that Dan posted on Facebook,
Oh no, what happened? What did I do?
I found out about this theory of Tim, what's the kid's name? A kid from a soap opera who it was revealed at the end of the soap opera had dreamed the whole series, but that series had tie-ins and crossovers with a bunch of other series, which means all of those series must have also been a product of the kid's dreams. And once you hit a certain number of series, you can find things that it has in common with other series and create, and basically like the entire television universe must be the product of this kid's dream.
Oh my god, you mean all
that
television
was
is
family?
fictional?
That was Family Ties, right?
That was a soap opera.
Soap opera. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. And what was the other? There was a few other shows that were like somebody's fever dream.
Yeah.
The one with like was it Daryl and Larry and his brother Daryl and his other brother Daryl.
Newhart.
And that's how I found out about Morley cigarettes. Because one of the ways that they tied a bunch of shows into the same universe is that apparently a bunch of completely disparate productions all use the same fake brand of cigarettes that doesn't exist in real life.
That's a general thing that I think a lot of them do. And I feel like that was one of the jokes that Community was making. Like they got to a point where they had fake commercials about the products in the show. Like the brand of chips that they eat is called Let's. I don't know. I was watching a Seinfeld scene the other day, and I just noticed in his, in the kitchen, like they've got a whole cupboard full of like cereal boxes, and every single one of them is turned around. It's like they're not even trying. Like it's just,
yeah.
I don't do that. No one does that.
But I was really impressed by the breadth of the different places that all use the same fake product. So it's in Morley cigarettes are featured in Psycho, The Twilight Zone, The X-Files, Friends, Curb Your Enthusiasm, a whole lot of other stuff. That 70s show, it's like everybody's tying into this.
What's the story? I mean, was this some? I mean, are they just sort of all in on the joke, or was there actually an intentional? Like, does somebody have this trademarked somewhere?
I'm looking this up right now.
Well, no, there's a company that makes a bunch of fake products, and they just kind of use them all. Everybody's kind of using them all.
Yeah, kind of like the same sound effects that come up over and over again in the same. It's just like a library of sound effects that everybody uses the same ones. Apparently, it's a play on Marley's, which is a nickname for Marlboro cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been in movies for years. Yeah, Psycho, and for a long time.
Does the package kind of look like the Marlboro package?
Yeah, I believe so.
Ah, okay.
Oh,
so that
yeah.
feels a little more intentional now. Not even necessarily like that. I mean, if I were a cigarette company and I were banned from advertising, I might make a
I'm sure this was
altered
before.
version of my product.
I'm sure this started before the ban, and it was a more a way of avoiding any legal, need for any kind of royalties or licensing anything from the actual cigarette company by just making it look like it.
Yeah. And it's not just cigarettes; it's also the beers and everything else. And in that way, it doesn't like interfere with whatever products they might already be advertising.
Yeah.
If you put Coca-Cola in a movie, guarantee that movie is getting a check from Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm. Betty Lynn is watching Late Night, Colbert, John Oliver. I feel like that's a genre of some sort.
Yeah, Seth Meyers has been crushing it. Like, how much do I love having a weekend update almost every night? So needed.
Doesn't that make it not a weekend update?
Well, that's what's so great about it. Instead of
always
once
the
a week,
weekend.
it's like 5 times most weeks. But that kind of in-depth reporting, like that he'll do in a closer look, that John Oliver does across his 24 minutes or so, is just such a valuable service. And as a former journalist, it pains me that it's comedians who are doing that service so much more than the actual mainstream news organizations, and they're certainly doing it more effectively.
Jeremiah Shiflett, what's up?
Hey, Jeremiah.
Yeah,
Shiflets.
and
It
Winchester.
definitely gives us a V for Vendetta vibe.
Yeah. Well, Jeremiah Shiflett was just saying that he's really been into watching this new episode of Black Mirror that we are all living in right now because it's crazy.
I've been
I don't
binge
know. It's
watching.
been a little unbelievable, honestly, Jeremiah. Like I'm not really buying it anymore. It went off the rails. I can't suspend disbelief any longer.
It was the writer's strike that did it.
It was. It was.
Maybe they know that they know that the show we're all about in is getting canceled at the end of the season, so they're just writing whatever.
Yeah, this is not. You don't want to see how this one gets canceled.
So Martha's watching The Last Kingdoms and Ozark, and I'm not sure. I feel like, what is The Last Kingdoms? Anybody know that one?
Oh, we got a new one to check out.
Yeah, I've been watching all of the Nailed It from every country.
Oh,
my mom loves that.
I didn't know that was exported already.
Oh my God, it is priceless.
Which one do you think is like the best version so far?
I don't know. Right now, the Nailed It España seems to have like so far the best baking.
I don't watch that show for the good baking though. I got to be honest.
It's all
worse
hilarious.
The baking, the better.
The one that was a happy little surprise was how cooperative Nailed It Mexico was. Like the contestants will stop what they're doing to help each other.
That's
nice.
like Bake Off. The Great British Bake Off is like that though. I love that stuff.
It's like so you can definitely tell the difference in how each culture behaves by how their contestants are.
Yeah.
I always had fantasies that somebody would go on Survivor and then just organize the contestants during the season to be like, hey, what if we just refuse to vote anybody off the island?
Yeah, they'd all get fired, or the kid Neil would breach a contract or something.
Right.
Or they'd hire a new
breach of contract.
But they would be famous, and it would be a huge cultural moment. So
you ever read a book called The Hunger Games?
No, well, the thing is that I feel like if it did happen, we'd never find out about it.
Yeah. I did go out for a reality show one time that was about music producers that would be given challenges every week.
Oh, you'd be great at that.
Yeah, except I would be bad for reality TV because they were they were interviewing me and they're like, okay, now say how you're better than all the other contestants and you're going to win. I was like, I don't know that. I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to come here and make some good music. They're probably awesome too. And they were like, you're not going to be on this show, buddy.
That's exactly the value system we need to change.
I was almost on a particular show that I'm not going to mention. They say that it involved wheels.
It was a Great British Bake Off, wasn't it?
Hell yeah. That would be very cool.
The Great British Bake Off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dolia, what will you tell folks what deliciousness you're making over there, Dee?
I'm making some banana walnut muffins here.
That's right. I should always eat before these streams.
I did eat. I made a pizza for my family.
Nice.
With a nice spicy turkey sausage.
Mm.
And piped in my pizza crust number 2, the one that I sent you guys in Slack.
Oh, yeah?
Pizza
Yeah, I
crust.
sent the recipe to you guys.
Oh yeah. Yes. Totally
The one
makes
with olive.
pizza crusts and breads and
Yeah,
pie
I mean
crust.
the only change I made to that recipe is I added the sesame seeds around the rim.
Nice.
Oh,
It's a good
Oh
touch.
wait, who's the sesame seed pizza? Is that the New Jersey one?
Yep.
There, Danjo.
Yep.
No.
In my town, the
Act-
best sesame seed pizza crust you're gonna ever have. Oh, it's so good.
Actually,
Yeah,
Yeah, Origin.
my inspiration was this place in Harvard Square. I think it was called Tommy's that we used to go to at the end of a night of drinking.
Yeah.
But I think he started putting the seeds on the crust to keep people from throwing pie crust everywhere afterwards, since he was mostly frequented by drunken college students.
Huh. So how does the sesame seeds keep people from throwing the crusts?
Because with the sesame seeds and the nice toastedness of them, they were tasty enough to eat
Yeah.
the crust.
That's a good point. That's a good
So
point.
it was also a way to get my son to eat his entire slice.
Nice.
sesame seeds make everything better.
Yes, they do.
Jeremiah knows what we're talking about.
Yep.
We got some more TV input. I don't know if we're moving on, but
Go for it.
Ashley said that she was hooked on The Rain. I did watch that. It was very cool. And
What's that about?
it's a Danish series about this was made. This started a few years ago, by the way. But it was about a deadly virus that was in the water, so that when it rained, anybody that got wet died. And then it kind of metastasizes from there. But
That's
Delightful. Okay,
Yes.
so it turns out Martha's watching The Last Kingdom. That's actually about the Last King. It's just Saxons and Danes. It's a historical show. It's not like I was expecting it to be a metaphor, like The Last Kingdom was Tower Records. I don't know, something like that. Martha also
Tower
asked
Records.
how everyone's doing in my house. Hi Martha, how you doing? I'm doing great. All the 2 people in my house, myself and my wife, are doing great. And we are getting excited to have 3 people in the house and also doing great. But so far it's all good. Thanks for asking.
One other thing I want to say about the Rain. I started watching that at the same time as Dark, which is a German post-apocalyptic show. And I think I would take Dark over The Rain. It's pretty cool, but it is dark. It is aptly named. So I don't know if there's any Dark fans out there in the audience that made it through that without your brain breaking. It's also an insanely complicated time travel story. So there's a lot of memes about that, like about I was watching Dark and my mom came in and asked me what I was watching, and it was too complicated to explain, so I just said I was watching porn because it was easier to explain. But anybody that's fans of things like Primer and complicated time travel stuff will probably get a kick out of Dark. It's very well done.
That's good. That's good.
Time travel stuff is usually too depressing.
And the thing about Dark is like it gets so twisted, the layers of causality. Spoiler alert, there is at the end of season 2, we realize that somebody's daughter is their mother. It's
Whoa.
it's just a 2-person chain of the mother giving birth to the daughter, who then gives birth to the person that then becomes the mother. It's messed up.
Sweet. Awesome.
Like Aeon Flux.
Yep.
Oh man, I haven't thought about that show in a long time.
I watched that movie just not too long ago. Rewatched
Oh,
it.
the movie. I'm Generation X. We watched it as a cartoon.
Blah
Yeah.
blah.
Ah.
I never saw it.
Any movie that has to make the point that mortality is valuable, that's always a hard sell for me. I mean, it's great. It sounds great on paper, and you're like, yeah, we live but one life, which is awesome. But then you're like, I don't know, Brad Pitt, do you really want to die? I don't know, Charlize Theron, like, do you really? You know, I'm referencing now Troy from 2004. That was a good time.
I mean, but eventually you do, right? Like, okay, a longer lifespan would be great, but like, look at, the face of Bo, who like eventually was like, Jesus, it's been long enough. Or the Q, they got irresponsible from their immortality. Or what mortal beings would consider to be irresponsible.
Yeah.
I think I better try it and see from experience.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'll decide that for myself.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I'd rather do like Yoda.
Yeah.
Cultivate my powers in the Force for 900 years.
Suze is recommending an Amazon Prime show called Fauda, a spy show in the Middle East. Could be good.
Interesting.
Could be good.
Interesting. Did anybody watch the Amazon Prime show Upload?
Yeah. I did.
Other than the heads exploding.
Other than
Head
the heads
exploding is always good too, though.
There's like a little bit of, maybe not technically gratuitous, but to my mind, gratuitous head exploding. But other than that,
I will say that I got there was a lot of moments where I felt like this is treading into some of the same ground as The Good Place, and I enjoy The Good Place more.
Oh, Gauntlet Throne.
It's the better place.
Or the not as good place.
The not as good place. There we go.
Upload is the not as good place.
But Sleeves, when you say gratuitous heads exploding, that implies the existence of like narratively justified heads exploding.
Well, in this case,
Oh,
I think
you ever
it
see the
actually
movie
was.
Scanners?
Well, yes,
You
our
ever see the movie?
Scanners comes to mind. But Sleeves, what are you saying?
Well, in this case, it basically shows you that the upload is very much permanent. And if you try, and spoiler, although this is quite early in the series, a download is also like, a download is attempted and a head explodes then too.
Jesus.
So it indicates, so not only does your head explode when you get uploaded, but if you try to download yourself into another head, it will also explode. So it's like this idea that once you're in the cloud, and it's they made the point, I thought, very effectively with the head explodings, that this is an irreversible, at least at the moment, process.
So this is Scanners?
No,
basically?
this was Upload. I haven't seen Scanners. What's
Okay.
Scanners?
A movie about exploding heads.
Oh, specifically about them. Like that's the.
Well, and you can upload, or you
Okay.
can at least like download. Yeah, you can ultimately, like, spoiler alert, move your consciousness into somebody else's head.
So might have. So in other words, that upload one might actually just been an attempt to dance around copyright infringement.
Yeah. Here, one second, since it's on topic.
Let us load. Yes.
Hope everybody can see that at home. Oh wait, shoot. I just realized the screen sharing doesn't work on the stream because different stuff was on there.
But will other people's screen sharing work onto the stream?
Oh yeah, probably. The thing I was sharing wasn't on the screen that I was capturing. Fun with OBS basically. But people
Well,
just
you
got
did that pretty quickly. I saw it come up there.
yeah, people just got a really good handy tip on what to bring to a hospital in the event of cool times, which is not really the worst thing you could have seen, I suppose. I love doing this on my own. I love doing this on my own computer. I love it. It's porn. Just easier to explain.
Much easier to explain.
Porn.
I don't know. I mean, if you were gonna be John Malkovich, which is another movie I've never seen, like whose head would you want to wind up in?
That's another
Instead of
thing.
John Malkovich.
Somebody's head should have exploded in that movie.
Definitely.
Exploded heads all over the Jersey
Oh,
Turnpike.
Malkovich's head.
Oh no.
Yeah, probably his. There you go.
Yep. This is my answer, by the way. I would want to end up in a cat's head. I think that would be fascinating.
I think I would want other people to end up in my head because it's fun.
that now.
No, it's consistently fun.
Well, the thing is that they'd be driving your body around.
Right.
Yeah.
And they might not have responsibility for your body because it's not actually, it's like the immortality thing. If you
Hey,
can't
they can't
if
do
you
much worse
care,
than
like,
me.
it kills you, who cares? I guess if they drive your body off a cliff, are they not able to escape, or they drive your body off a cliff and they end up themselves tumbling down the Jersey Turnpike?
I don't know. I do spend a lot of time on the Jersey Turnpike, though.
Well, if you ever see people rolling down one of the banks of the highway, they probably just came out of John Malkovich's head.
Or a protest where they got tear gassed.
Tear gassed all the way into New Jersey. They're going crazy with that tear gas these days.
But Jeremiah, I'll see you one and raise you one. So Jeremiah asks, why do we say unicorn and not unihorn? I would ask, why do we say cornucopia and not hornicopia?
And why do we say cornhole and not hornhole?
Why do we say cornhole at all?
No, we do not say that anymore.
Yeah.
What? Why? I don't know.
I'm sure it has something to do with, like, origins of different words coming from various languages and whatnot. I ended up down a click hole about English spelling.
Good.
And why so many words are spelled so sillily. And it, just boils down to the fact that what we call English is not one language.
No.
Right, it's hybrids. Anything jump out at you from that, Dave? Any particular words?
Well, no. I mean, a lot of it just was about different eras. So you could tell which words came from which era based upon how it was spelled. And then there were some words that weren't originally spelled that way. It's just that when people started, printing things, they started spelling it like they thought it would be spelled, and then it just kind of caught on because they were just like, well, you spelled that one like that, well, you might as well spell this one like that.
Quality stuff right here. This is the best content.
And I see we have Lulu. Can you hear us, Lulu?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, sure
Yeah. How's it going?
It's good. How are you guys doing?
Yes.
Doing great.
Welcome everybody watching our Gangstagrass stream. This is Lulu Freisdot, and she is been doing a lot of work on election security and voting information. I wanted her to come on to share some updates with us and get everybody up to date on all the craziness that is voting in the United States.
It's crazy. I'm going to just turn my video off because I'm going to just chomp on some food here while I listen to you guys for a bit, and then I'll come back when you're ready.
Totally fair. Although I will say,
Ready when you are.
We are also all eating on some food.
So we're ready when you are. But yeah, and this will be a good chance for us to talk a little bit about some election stuff that we'll be launching, or just to mention it, which is that we are working as part of a program with Oxfam to help people encourage their friends to vote and sign up to get reminders about registering, reminders about voting, and Sleeves will tell us about how you can sign up to be part of that team.
Yeah, so there's a number that you can text, and again, this is part of the Oxfam partnership, which is really cool. It's really nice to have such a big organization that's pulling all this together. So you can text the number 97779, so that's 97779, and text G the vote. So the letter G, the vote, sort of the opposite of F the vote. Yes, that is 97779, and text G the vote, and you will get a text back that will welcome you and ask who your friends are that you're going to encourage to vote, and it'll ask you for your name and your zip code, and that's what they're going to use to help encourage you to and give you the information that you need to help your friends get out there and vote. And we all have these friends. I mean, you know, I won't speak to anybody who's not on the call right now, but I suspect there might be one among us who is, you know, at his relatively new address, not registered to vote. And, you know, that happens to a lot of people, right? You move and maybe you move to another state and you're definitely not registered to vote in that state if you've just moved to another state. So there's a lot of stuff to get taken care of, and
Yeah, and
help your friends remember.
And voters get purged sometimes, you know,
Yes.
and you know, little innocent mistakes like that can happen, that you get purged, and who knows what happens.
Yeah. And it's different in every jurisdiction, so I can't speak to any jurisdiction outside of mine because I haven't done deep research into this, although I'm sure the Oxfam folks will know. There's at least for us, there's a website, you know, our county website that we can go to and do things like request absentee ballots and check to make sure that we're registered to vote and find out where our polling place is, or again, request absentee ballots, because I don't know about you, but I'm not going anywhere near a polling place. Blessed to the people who are actually doing that, but you know, for a lot of people it's not a safe thing to do right now, so there are lots of alternatives, and maybe we will have something to say to that as well. I mean, I know when I think about voter security, I think about Diebold and how terrible that whole situation is, and you know how much more I want to have a real paper record, and not even just a receipt from a Diebold machine, but a real actual paper record of the vote that a person cast. And with your absentee ballot, you do have that. And you know, and our president's been telling us to vote twice. So at least if you live in North Carolina. So so you know, there's that option too. Kidding, not encouraging anyone to vote more than once, but definitely vote once. Yeah. So we're gonna have a website up. And but for now, text 97779 G the vote, and we'll get involved. We're looking at hopefully like sending some cool messages out on the forum as we get it rolling. But this is technically, it hasn't launched yet. This is all just a preview.
Yeah. So we're letting you in on this this thing in development at Gangstagrass headquarters as we speak.
Right.
Yep.
You can text. The number is live. You can text now, but technically our project has not launched yet.
Mm-hmm. And this is a good time to take a break for a word from our sponsors. This program is sponsored by Gangstagrass. You should enjoy Gangstagrass music, and you should support awesome musicians to make more awesome music by signing up to be a Gangstagrass Barnstormer. That's a little monthly sign up of being part of our special crew that gets behind the scenes stuff, exclusive outtakes, and archive audio and video things, and lots of goodies that we send out to our special Barnstormers Club. To find out more and to join up, go to gangstagrass.com/barnstormers.
That's right. Barnstormers, yes. And including cool little stuff there. We have a great little behind the scenes video of Dan playing the banjo in a studio, just a little outtake you're not going to see anywhere else.
Yeah, we do.
And also check out notimeforonemies.com. The new album is out. The CDs are going to get mailed out in about a week. So notimeforonemies.com, you can still go pre-order the physical copy of the album. And every physical copy makes a huge difference. So we're definitely encouraging our fans to go out there and get those CDs. But we also have a lot more important stuff happening right now. Not to denigrate anything, but this is pretty important. We have a big election coming up. There's a lot of allegations being thrown around about what is and is not going to happen. We've seen difficulties with, with how votes are getting counted and what's happening in various jurisdictions throughout several recent elections, and I'm sure going back much further. So we're really excited to have Lulu here to talk with us about voting security and the issues around that. Thanks so much for coming on and joining us.
I'm so excited. I'm excited to hear the new album. Woo! Awesome. So it's really cool to see you guys. So Wrench and I used to do music together when I was a rapper, Voodoo Lulu. But since those times, I've moved on to do some stuff that's a little bit more serious. I run a nonpartisan nonprofit now. It's called Smart Elections, and we have a website, smartelections.us, and I'm going to just kind of twirl you through some of the stuff that we do. Our mission statement is elevating election reform to an urgent national priority, because we absolutely feel that it needs to be an urgent national priority. So the work that we're doing is definitely to protect the upcoming 2020 election, but it's also looking beyond that. Our elections really are in disrepair. They're really dysfunctional, as many of us have become more and more aware. And we can do everything we can right now to protect the 2020 election and try to make sure that the results are accurate, that the counting is transparent, and that we can have confidence in the results. And then we all need to also come together after that and continue to work to try to make long-term improvements. We have a lot of election equipment and systems that are extremely vulnerable to hacking, to insider rigging. We do not, for the most part, check our election results. We don't have many audits in place, which is just a really big problem. I mean, most people usually just even check the change that they get at the grocery store, but we actually don't even check our election results. So let me just tell you some of the stuff that we're doing in really easy ways for you to get involved, so it's not a heavy lift at all. So one of the things that we're doing right now that we're really excited about is we have an election protection forum every other week on YouTube, and it's really fun. It's just for about an hour that you get information each time that helps to build up your knowledge base about specifically where the problems are in our election system. It can be a little bit complicated and it can feel overwhelming, but when you get it that way, kind of just every other week, then like I said, it's fun and it's really accessible. So I'm going to try to share my screen with you. Let's see if this is going to work. This is the flyer that we made. We've gotten really great response from this forum. People we get just emails of people saying like, whoa, I was blown away. And I think part of it is just because we're talking about things that are kind of a minefield in some ways, and the media for the most part will not talk about this. You won't hear people talking about the fact that the election equipment is insecure, and specifically how one machine might be worse than another, how we want to check those machines, how we would look to see if results have been hacked. And I think people are just relieved in some ways to have somebody actually talking about it. Like, oh, I can just talk about this, not as some sort of like conspiracy theory, but just these are, we're looking for evidence-based elections. And so you really have to look at the details of that. So if you want to get signed up for this, our next one is Tuesday, September 8th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube. We do these live on YouTube, but the best way to do it is to go to our website, and let me see, I think I have to share. I'm not sure I don't think it lets me switch. You can let me know if it's, as I switch my browsers, as I switch my tabs, if it's coming up on your screen. So this is our website. smartelections.us, and if you go to the front page and just do the drop down and pick election protection, and you can just sign up right there, and then you'll get the invitations. It's through a site called Mobilize, which is really great because you can sign up for multiple sessions and it'll send you reminders and stuff and help you keep involved. And then at the end of each session, sessions are an hour, we have breakout sessions by state, which is fantastic because you get all this information, you're kind of pumped up, like, what can I do? Oh, I can go to my breakout state I can go to a breakout group for my state, or when is it available for your state, for a region that you're interested in. And then you can connect with other people who are interested in this and start to actually figure out what you could actually do. And then one of the first things that we're asking people to do is take our poll worker challenge. Is that flipping with you? Do you see our poll worker challenge now?
Hashtag,
okay, great.
Yep.
So this is like, we were trying to figure out, like, when I went to sign up, there is a huge shortage of poll workers. They are hundreds of thousands of poll workers short. This is actually a huge problem. It could lead to closed polling locations. It could lead to really long lines.
Yeah, and a lot of people who usually work in the polls are often it's a much older demographic, so fair enough to not be able to do it this time.
Absolutely. These people are really protecting their health for very good reasons. And, it's interesting. We've had a huge crisis of poll workers for years. There's been a known shortage of poll workers, but now it's just turned into this, it's turned into something that CNN called it a staggering shortage. There's tens of thousands of poll workers short in multiple states and locations. I know in particular, I heard Detroit, DC, Philly, NYC, probably Florida, some rural areas in Georgia in particular. Those were the areas we were hearing in particular. But if you can, go to our website. Again, it's smartelections.us, and just do the drop down for, go under Take Action and do the drop down Poll Worker Challenge. And there you will see the information. And it's basically, it's really simple. You're going to apply to be a poll worker. It takes you to a site called We're a official partner with Power the Polls, which is an incredible organization, powerthepolls.org. It's going to take you directly to their website. You're going to sign up, and it's going to take you directly to their website, and you're going to be able to sign up and give your information there. And then we ask you to send us an email, pollworkerchallenge@gmail.com, that helps us keep track of how many people have done it. And then part of the challenge is after you sign up to be a poll worker, then you send the challenge to 5 people. So you take the challenge and then you send it on. It can be a long day. That's why we're calling it a challenge in New York City. It's from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. for election day, but there's also shorter shifts available for early voting. So please do sign up for our forum, and that's the main thing. When you get there, we'll tell you all sorts of other stuff. So it's so nice to be on. Thank you so much for having me and for what you're doing.
Yeah.
What a great organization. Thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah. That's terrific. I feel like we're probably going to have a lot of questions for you. I don't want to pepper you, but this is just fantastic to get to talk to you about it.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions, or you guys can play music or do other stuff and come back and ask questions or whatever you guys want. I'm happy to participate.
First question is, what the fuck is going on?
Yes.
Seconded.
And so one challenge we're seeing is a shortage of poll workers. Anything else out there that you would sort of want to put out there for whatever circles we can reach for people that may be voting or may be in danger of not voting, that you think people should know?
I will say that I share people's concern about the election. I think that it is going to be possibly the most controversial election of our lifetimes, and I actually was around for the 2000 election, which was really, really crazy, between Bush and Gore, where that went on for weeks. I think this could be worse. One of the reasons why I think people are so concerned is that there has been a lot of just unrest in the country to begin with, because of some of the because the protests have got people kind of riled up, and because the kind of pushback from the protests has gotten people in kind of a state of mind where they're doing things that are violent. So I think that there is a lot of concern that the election, if the results are not known immediately or if they're challenged, and I think people think both of those things are quite likely to happen, that things could spiral out of control, that people could get heated, that we could have violence in both from both sides. And I think that's one of the reasons that people are really concerned. So the one thing that I would say is, let's all stay calm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The thing that really separates a democracy from other types of government is that there is a peaceful transfer of power. We cannot have a peaceful transfer of power unless people are peaceful. So even if we are concerned about what's happening, we need to express that peacefully. We can go into the streets if we need to. We can have protests. We can especially work. One of the things that we're going to be doing is training people on specifically what type of things you can do. In the time, I think the first thing to say is that there's very few people who think that we're going to actually know who won the presidential race on election night, the way that we're used to knowing. And there's many reasons for that. But the main one is because there's going to be a huge increase in voting by mail. And those absentee ballots take longer to count. They can come in later. The deadlines to receive them are sometimes later. I think in one state, I think in Georgia now, they said it could come in even 3 days after the election. I'm not exactly sure about that, but certainly the absentee ballots could be received as late as election day. And then if a state like New York, that's used to processing maybe 5% of its ballots by mail, all of a sudden receives 50% of its ballots by mail, which is happening. That is just that. I mean, that is actually, those are the figures that I think. I was on a call last night about Georgia, and I think those are the figures from Georgia. They went in the primary from 5% mail-in ballots to 50% mail-in ballots. You're talking about a completely different structure. So mail-in ballots are counted differently. Usually they're run through high-speed scanners. They have to have a lot of systems. They have, in terms of the way that they're counted, there's more of a protocol. And just let me know if I'm getting too much into the weeds here. But when
Not
somebody,
at all, no.
okay, so when somebody mails in their ballot, there's a procedure that has to happen. It comes in an envelope. The envelope usually has to be sealed. It has to have a signature on the outside. That signature has to match the signature of the voter that's on file. Obviously, you have to check the voter is registered as well. And those processes, usually there's laws about that. Usually they have to be observed by multiple political parties, usually sometimes by candidates as well, and the signatures can be challenged. Often they are challenged. People are not aware that absentee ballots are often counted or often discarded at a much higher percentage rate than other ballots. So in New York, for example, in the primary, I believe the Brooklyn absentee ballots were discarded at a rate of almost 30%. And some of the other ballots were discarded at a rate of almost 20% for absentee ballots. So those are huge numbers, and people are going to be really, really focused on these absentee ballots, possibly challenging each one. There could be signature challenges, registration challenges. And then in some states, the voter has a chance to do what's called cure that challenge, which means that if their ballot is being challenged, they're notified and they're given a period of time, maybe 3 days, when they can come and say, no, that is actually my signature, but I've developed Parkinson's now and my hand shakes a little, or I just decided to funk it up and now I sign my name as Wrench instead of Oscar, or whatever it might be, right? So that process takes time, right? And then even physically, those envelopes have to be opened. That's a whole nother thing. Sometimes there's actual machines that open the envelopes. Once the envelope is opened, the ballot, once it's verified and confirmed that it's valid, then has to be separated from the envelope so that there's no identification, so that your vote becomes secret and anonymous then. So in each of those steps has to be observed and done carefully, I think usually with chain of custody procedures. All of this takes time. So we are not going to know, most likely, who won the election on election night, and it could be weeks. And we should be prepared for that, and we should be patient, but we should be diligent and pay attention. And that is one reason we are training people, not just to be poll workers. One reason when you do the poll worker challenge, we want you to email us, is so we can stay in touch with you. And we can have teams of people who are going and observing the process and sending us information on the front lines, especially in places where we're concerned that the results maybe weren't accurate, or we're not sure we have confidence in the results. We want people available on the front lines to be, there's different techniques that we're training people in, taking photographs of poll tapes, requesting digital ballot images. Many times these scanners take photographs of ballots, and we can request those digital ballot images in some states and actually look at the photograph of the ballots and do our own independent counts. We can ask for public records requests from the election officials. Many states have laws that mandate that they will provide us with information, so we could check, for example, if the number of voters matches the number of cast ballots. That's always a basic check that you want to run. If there's been a bunch of ballot stuffing, then there's going to be more ballots than the number of voters who voted, and we would want to know that. So we need to have people available who are trained. It's great just to register and vote, but it's also, if you feel like doing more, if you feel able to, a lot of this stuff can be done remotely from your house. Just, a lot of this stuff is going to be on Zoom now, like public meetings. You can be watching Board of Elections meetings, keeping us notified, things like that. So definitely be patient, be diligent, and be calm, and be connected.
When in the event that a ballot is challenged, does the person whose ballot has been challenged have a way to find out if their ballot got challenged?
It depends on the state, right?
It totally depends on the state. In New York here, we're trying to get that passed, but I'd have to check if it got passed or not. I'm sorry, I think that it was proposed in the legislature, and I'm not sure if that's one of the things that the governor signed or not. I can check on it and get back to you. Some states, you do have that right. Some states, it's not. It has to do with whether or not it's in the statute, or your legislature has passed some sort of emergency provision, or the governor has done something like that. It's really good if that exists. It's a really important thing.
And this is not very different from how like voters can be challenged in person. And this may not happen to everybody. I don't know if everybody has had this happen to you or if you've seen this, but that's part of elections is I was the small town where I went to college. The college students were sort of enough of a recognizable voting bloc that there would sometimes be a person probably from the opposition party that was posted at the local polling place that would just periodically pick out people that looked like college students and say, and the challenge was interesting because it was little technicalities, like if you were registered to vote at your freshman year dorm, but now you live in the sophomore year dorm, and you didn't know, I don't know, maybe this means that I'm not registered properly, and then you might back down, or you might say, I don't have an hour to kill talking to this person and proving that I'm valid. I have to get to class. I guess I'm just not going to vote today. So that sort of thing, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but it can be used in sort of a partisan way to say, well, I'm trying to challenge you because I don't want your vote to count. But then there's also the question of legitimacy, which is totally fair.
But that absolutely does happen, and that is one of the most important reasons why it's good to sign up and be a poll worker, because you will be there. I had one of the women who's in one of the groups I'm in the Brooklyn Voters Alliance. She works as a poll worker, and she said she was working with another woman who was challenging all the time. And finally, my friend turned to her and was just like, you know what? It's not cool. What you're doing is not okay. You are just making this stuff up. And she really gave her some pretty strong pushback and was able to stop some of those challenges. So you actually, and if if a challenge is legitimate, or you actually feel that there's a reason that a voter, doesn't seem to be a legitimate voter, of course, that's all part of the legitimate process. But you can be there and actually help as a poll worker. And there's other things that you can do. You can just keep your eyes open, and we can train you and what other things to watch for. But it's really great if you want to be on the front lines and feel healthy enough to do that. Absolutely, it's important.
Yeah.
Suze over in the Facebook chat asks if you would recommend voting in person over mail-in ballots.
I am going to really say that if you feel healthy and you feel up to it, go in person. Your vote has a better chance of being counted. And it's also, there's going to be a huge strain on our postal system from all of the mail-in ballots. And the more ballots that get mailed in, the less likely the more likely that some of them are not going to be counted. Does that make sense? Because it's just the postal system is potentially going to be overwhelmed. Election officials are going to be overwhelmed. The ballots may get there later than the deadline. So if you feel healthy enough to vote in person, and I actually wrote an op-ed on this, and I'm going to share my screen again. Let me just hang on.
We can also post links into all the chats that we're streaming on as well.
It's true.
That's a link.
If I'm on our chat, will that go out?
You can post it to our chat, and then we will post it onto all of our live streams.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now, and this is an op-ed that I wrote that was in The Hill. And it's about exactly what I'm talking about right now and what you brought up, which just is that if you feel healthy enough, the thing to do is to vote early. And I think we're going to we don't have it set up yet, but I think we're going to have a pledge to vote early. It's not hard. Many, many states have early voting now, and it's safer because fewer people vote early. So it's less of a crowd. Most of the polling stations and the election officials are being very, very conscious to set up circumstances where it's safe. They are employing social distancing. They are providing all the poll workers with PPE. You can wear a mask. You can stand, at a good distance from other people. There are ways to do it safely. And if you feel healthy enough, by doing that, by voting early, one, you increase the chance that your vote will be counted. And secondly, you take some of that burden off the mail-in voting system, which is really going to feel some strain. So I will put that link to my op-ed in your chat, and I would love it if you would spread it around and have people talking about this and sharing it. It's actually one of the things I feel the most strongly about. I think that it'll help us get the results faster. It'll help tamp down on some of that anxiety and tension that we're talking about. So I definitely do encourage that.
That was good. Good question. And good answer.
This might be maybe sort of a simple one, overly simple, but I'm seeing a couple of people in the comments, mostly over on YouTube. The YouTube culture is kind of different from the Facebook culture I've seen in the past. But a lot of people saying things like, "Oh man, I came for the music. I'm not here for politics." Now, for me, I feel like it's worth using a different word, maybe civics or something else, because the idea of voting, the idea of protecting our elections and making sure that everyone is registered and everybody votes and that votes are counted, to me seems apolitical. It seems like it's not partisan. Do you have a thought on that at all?
We're a nonpartisan organization, and we are not advocating for any candidate in any of the elections. We really want a fair count. That's what we want. We want the votes to be counted accurately and transparently. But I would love to hear some music too. I'm a huge Gangstagrass fan, so I would totally do hearing some music.
The thing that I thought was funny about, I saw Kitty Cat's comment, and I've seen Kitty Cat in the comments before on YouTube, made some nice comment about Ride With You, which is also a song with a, political message. Like, if anybody who thinks that they come to Gangstagrass for the jam and the rap and not the politics hasn't been listening to the music very carefully. And that's okay. You don't have to, but it's definitely there. Like, it's all a part of the thing. So what about Ride With You, Wrench? Can we throw up
Yeah, I passed that to Dan since he is
got the OBS
running the multi-streaming.
Yes, I totally can do that, and I believe the way we did screen sharing last time, you can do that and it'll come through.
Okay.
But
if you've got the bandwidth for it, go for it.
Yeah, but let's see. Would it be fun to try to watch the video, or should I just pull the sound up here?
I mean, I'm a fan of the video. If we can,
I could screen share the video.
It's a great one. Yeah, if you want to throw that up there, and we'll all mute until it's done.
Yeah, and seriously, anybody that you're thinking of when you hear the song, and you're like, yeah, that's my Ride With You crew, send this video over to them and let them know that you're thinking of them when you watch this video. We would. Mm-hmm. It's really gratifying that it's getting shared around so much. So. Let's share the love.
Okay, let me see. Bring this up here. Let me know if the audio is coming through as well.
Come on. Come on. Come on. Yeah, the future is a bumpy ride. I wanna ride with you. Finding monsters till we die. I wanna ride just as long as you're by my side. I wanna ride with you. I got a green flag and I'm gonna let it fly. Come on. I wanna ride with you. Yeah. Come on. I wanna ride with you. Come on, let's ride. I know I'm ready for the leap. Started out with a little, barely had a heat, but what we had kept a belly full of eats. Just a short slip away from being belly on the streets. Hard scramble over grits, jelly on the wheat. Unabashed with a drive to keep our family on our feet. Hard work raising youngins in the belly of the beast. To be sitting around the table getting ready for the feast. It wasn't easy and it wasn't alone, but we still got a long road to hoe on the road. So what gets sold gets the water to grow, and the sunlight to get the harvest ready to show. So it goes, the dough whatever served on the menu. Could react with situations that you've been through. We can still get through like we got through. We are not through, just know we got you. I wanna ride with you. Finding monsters till we die. as long as you're by my side. You got a freak flag, and I'm gonna let it fly. Let it fly. Come on. I wanna ride with you. Come on, let's ride. The creatures might be coming to get you, but I'm here to slay monsters like Geralt the Witcher. And I'm here with you, that's all she wrote. Tight like a fat couple caught up in coach for my bros and my blokes. Mamacitas y amigas, yes, all of my folks. If the whole world starts to go up in smoke, we're riding together and we're going for broke. But I'm trying to make sure that don't happen. Climb on this boat with me, ride with your captain. Maintain yourself in an orderly fashion. Calm and collected, but I still need your passion. This is a call to action, packed with exact facts. Building more bridges than you will with a hashtag. Big dog carcass in the back, cats running. Revolution coming now, ain't that something? Future is a bumpy ride. Come on, I wanna ride with you. Fighting monsters till we die. Come on, I wanna ride just as long as you're by my side. I wanna ride with you. Got a green flag, and I'm gonna let it fly. High, high. I wanna ride with you. I wanna ride with you. I wanna ride with you. I wanna ride with you.
You have it. Okay.
Man, I love that song.
Yes, I would like to say to all the Gangstagrass fans that are watching right now out there that the next few months does feel like a bit of a scary cliff that we are approaching, and we just know that it means a lot for us to just have all of you and have each other's backs, be by each other's sides, and we're going to get through it with you.
Yep.
And I know people want to hear the music, which is cool. But I also know if we had these informational sessions and it helped 1.5 people get their voting together that might not have, or one person helped them decide to be a poll worker, I'm totally down to do this, and there will be more music later.
Here, here.
Yep.
Here. All part of the package.
Yes. And Lulu, I know you have some other appearances you're making and stuff that you're writing and stuff. So if you need to jump off, we understand. You have a big project ahead of you.
I do have a ton of stuff to get done, getting ready for our forms and stuff. I will let people know you can follow me on Twitter at Lulu Freistat. And I will put that I put a bunch of links into your chat, and maybe you'll put them on the YouTube chat. It has the links to sign up for our election protection forum, our website with the poll worker challenge, and the early voting info. So play more music. I think the music is what keeps us all going.
I'm glad. And I hope that you liked some of those lyrics in there. I think we were talking about some of the stuff you mentioned before about, we need your passion, but we also need folks to stay calm and collected and organized, right?
Totally dig those. I want to ride with you guys. You're the bomb.
It's
So
true.
go to smartelections.us and click on election protection, and sign up and consider being a poll worker. And at the very least, if I'm summarizing this accurately, to the extent that you possibly can and feel safe and okay to do it, vote in person, and voting early is an option in a lot of places.
Good way
So
to
check
go.
with your local policies and see.
Absolutely. Those are awesome. All right. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks
All right,
so
thank you
much.
so much, Lulu.
Lulu.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Okay, bring in some
Yes.
info. Info for that ass out there.
That's right. Now get your ass out and vote.
Why is that not a hashtag, Wrench?
Yeah. So yeah, and just to say it again, anybody out there that is enjoying Ride With You and thinking about any of your friends and loved ones when you listen to that song, share it with them and let them know, I'm listening to this song and I think about you and I want to ride with you, and spread it around.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see, Cymatic in the YouTube comments says something not dissimilar to one of the things that I'm often ranting about, and says the left and the right are two wings of the same bird of prey. Vote between two corrupt sociopaths. Not my opinion. That's not the thing that I say. No thanks. Stop playing into the left-right charade, and maybe things could finally change. And that actually is a super good, point, that the left and the right are. It's really not. If we're doing this correctly, it's not about that. It's about you and your neighborhood and your community and who's, running your school board and, who you're putting into Congress and will they gerrymander to make things more divided, or will they help bring people together for the common good and help people look out for each other? Not really about left and right.
Right. I mean, it's also, for me personally, it's about issues. I'm a single issue voter most of the time, and I always vote my water.
For anybody who is not plugged in on that, you want to expand on it a little bit?
Basically, I vote for whoever. Te quiero también. Whoever is going to make sure that I have clean water coming through my faucet.
Mm-hmm.
And who have a track record of supporting policy and maintaining a clean water table.
Yeah, so kind of like investing in companies whose products you use, but on a way more important level.
Right. Because that's a product I use every day.
Every day.
Is that thing coming out of my faucet?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it does take some wading through some complications. Unfortunately, it's not always as easy as being like, which one has the exact policies that I favor? Your ideal candidate is often not going to be on the ballot. That doesn't mean not to vote. It's more like public transportation than getting married. You're not waiting for the one. You're finding the thing that's going to take you in the right direction towards your location, even if it's not getting you all the way there.
Yeah. And that's coming from somebody who, definitely, I mean, Wrench, you've expressed some enthusiasm for third or alternate parties. So certainly, getting out of maybe an oversimplified binary, and understanding that, sometimes it's about getting somebody on the ballot who won't necessarily win this election this time. But as Dolio was saying, if you're trying to support the issues and you show enough support for those issues consistently, maybe the candidates will respond to that and say, oh, okay, well, if I want your support, I have to at least act like I care about these issues. Okay, I guess I have to take you seriously. I have to take you and sort of the group of voters, but that's sort of getting more into party politics, I guess. But
yeah.
A lot of this stuff only works if voting works, if we're all registered, and if the election works. You can't have any of this conversation unless it works. Yeah.
And just to clarify on my position, it's true. I'm not at all a fan of the two-party system that we have. And I think that needs to change through legislative change, the way that the system works. I don't think that third parties actually change that. It's a change that has to come in from actually changing the rules of the game, which unfortunately there is not an incentive for the people that are already in the government to change the rules of the game. So it's a tricky bind. It's not. I don't know the situation, but I'm certainly not. And it's your right to vote for whatever party you want, but it has not been my strategy to vote for a party that is not going to win, simply because we are currently trapped in this system that's winner take all, and therefore you want to make sure that you're trying to push it towards the one most likely to be a better person to try to pass the policies that you want. And it's certainly something that requires you to look past just voting every 4 years and voting every 2 years, and think about who you're going to be protesting against after the election, and keep working. Elections are just one small part of a constellation of things that are involved in shaping the future. And whoever's in office, we still need to be active and putting pressure on and protesting in order to make that change.
That's right. Like, imagine if you vote for somebody and then they win, and then the next day you're out in the streets protesting against them, and somebody might turn to you and say, I don't understand. Why are you protesting? You voted for them, and they won. Why would you protest against them? And the answer would be, well, exactly. I want to make sure that they stay accountable to me. If I voted for them, it's maybe because they campaigned on a lot of stuff. Maybe I wanted them to do some of the stuff. Maybe I didn't want them to do other parts of their campaign. And I want to make sure that they are doing what I want them to do.
Yeah,
and many times the protest is not about a particular person or candidate or politician. Most times the protest is about an issue, and no matter who's in power, the issue is still important, and whoever you elect still needs to be reminded that that issue is of importance and needs to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Here. I was just going to say that, there's a lot of talk nowadays about, that the protests are, abusive in some way, that, that there's something that they're basically doing wrong. And protest is 3 of our most fundamental rights.
What are those?
Freedom of speech, the freedom of petition, to petition the government for the redress of grievances, and the right to assembly, freedom of assembly. Right there, they're all. I mean,
those are 3 good ones.
They're really good ones.
Really good
and
ones.
it dovetails into freedom of the press.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, freedom of the press and freedom of religion too. They're all. You have the point of the government in this country, as the country was created. The stated purpose was to ensure that this is a government of the people, for the people, and by the people, whose purpose is to secure the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then those rights got enumerated in the Bill of Rights. So that's where we have our speech and our petition and our assembly and our press and our religion. But that's the whole point of the government, to protect those rights and to protect the lives of absolutely all of the people living under this government. And to the extent that they do not do that, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it.
Or to force it to change.
Peacefully.
Yeah, and or to force it to change through public pressure and protests and stuff.
Absolutely.
Which a lot of times is the most feasible method, before having to completely dismantle and recreate a whole government. Putting enough pressure to just get that government to change its policies or change the leadership is usually the outcome, and a lot of times the best path for that.
Yeah.
Right, and also public protest was one of the key tools in achieving all the rights that we currently have.
Yeah. So to say, okay, well, that's good. We've gotten all the rights, and the protesting is done now. Protesters can all go home because all the rights are. It's all good now. Would be kind of missing a couple of points, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, a country where protest is not accepted is not going to go well.
Not good news.
Yeah.
No.
Very important.
Right. You don't stop watering your lawn just because it's green today.
So, whoever's protesting, even if you don't agree with them, you agree with their right to protest and say, like, you're wrong, but go out and protest if that's what you believe in, because that is our right, and that is part of how we have public discourse in this country, even if it's disruptive, because sometimes that's a tactic that has to be employed in order to make change.
And on some level, I might suggest that a protest has to be at least disruptive enough to cause you to take notice of it, whatever that means. And we could of course debate and argue about what that means, but like it's going to be loud or visible or maybe obstructive, hopefully not to the level where it causes serious harm, but
right.
Visibility has to be a key part of it.
Right, and if it's not disruptive, it is easily ignored.
Yeah.
There was a question in the YouTube chat from Carl Summer. What would be more valuable, ranked choice voting or popular vote wins?
we're not experts here, but I personally love preferential voting. You know, I felt like Australia had a really good system. As I recall, it was, you know, you rank your choices, and whoever gets the least number of number one votes gets dropped, and anybody who gave that person a number one, their number two gets risen up to number one, and then they count them all again, and whoever got the least number of number one votes gets dropped, and all the people who had that as number one, their number two preference gets elevated.
Very
And that way
interesting.
you get the best candidate for the most people,
True.
which I
And
think
you
is
can
the
do
fairest
that.
way to do it.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird dichotomy put there because you could do that with the popular vote. It's like popular vote or not popular vote is a separate question from whether ranked choice. Like
Yes.
you can have them both. Just saying popular vote would solve some of the problems in representation that we have now, but it would still create the winner take all system that allows for two parties to dominate and give us only two choices.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's maybe one.
And it definitely helps. It definitely helps when picking a pizza.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, there's also the idea of representative democracy that, you know, the votes get distributed among several parties based on how the populace voted, so that the makeup of the government actually reflects a multiplicity of how people voted and in their proportions.
Yeah. Which happens in other countries a lot. And if people aren't familiar, you know, if you want to know how this government could be, it's worth looking at other examples of world governments. And I say that, and I feel like that might be obvious to the people on this chat because we can be sort of politically minded, but it's worth seeing the other ways that people do it in the world, because there are a bunch of models right now in place, and we can learn from some of them, and we don't have to say, well, ours is great and perfect and it's the best, so what could we possibly ever learn from any other government? I mean, even just looking at the fact that it's so based on, for instance, like the British form of government and common law system, says something, I think.
So I'm writing out a list of pizza ingredients because I actually really liked Olio's idea of the preferential pizza topping choices.
Oh man! But now you're gonna get like combinations of toppings that like you get everybody's first choice of like, you know, sausage and everybody's first choice of pineapple,
we can only
and then
choose,
they go together.
We can only choose. Yeah, you can in this system you can only choose one. You can't like put the president and the vice president this way because that's how you end up with some. That could get messy. I agree. We do not want a onion and pineapple pizza. Maybe somebody does.
But then you could have a coalition pizza where there's a section of onion.
That's true. That's true.
Because
we
the
could
onion
do the
people,
third party pizza.
Right. Because the onion people.
The balance of power pizza.
Right. The onion section might have some good flavors to share.
Right. And there might be a tiny little sliver of crossover of the onion and the pineapple, but just a little sliver.
Yeah.
Because mostly they don't really cross over, but occasionally on a couple issues they do.
Yeah.
On the caramelization issue, they actually cross over quite nicely.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
But getting back to reforming the basic system, another question on Facebook from Wendy Rittermall, not in the form of a question so much as just a statement: we must pass legislation to defund politics from super PACs and repeal Citizens United. So this is something where we get back to, you know, candidates like Bernie Sanders have run on the sort of the single primary issue platform of just broadly campaign finance reform, which is kind of like saying we have to make voting work better, otherwise nothing else will work. Campaign finance reform is sort of a similar thing. We have to make sure that campaigns are financed fairly and properly, otherwise that's a big part of why they can get so unbalanced and say, well, these two big parties have all the money and they're going to get all the votes.
Or even outside the parties, that people with all the money will have a huge influence on it unless we regulate that.
And
Sure.
it does make a difference. Like you look at the referendum system in California, and I remember studying this at some point. There was, I'm sure it's changed a little bit, but there was actually a formula that you could use, like how much money do you need to spend in order to get a referendum passed?
Right.
You know,
which
is a terrifying thought.
Yeah, I mean, what it is it's basically a legalized form of bribery.
Wendy Rittermall also said, "We all do better when we all do better."
Yes.
So big
Thank you,
props
Paul
for that.
Whetstone.
Yeah, we don't have a video for that song yet, which is
Oh.
a shame because it's my favorite song in the album. It's still my favorite song, consistently. Although, I say that, and I should take it back, because honestly, we have like 5 different videos for that song already. Just as a
right.
reminder,
The
we
Twitch.
did create this song on Twitch. And to everybody who's watching on Twitch, hello. And you probably know this already, but we were doing a Kick the Can with that song, and we all went around. So we could probably put together a pretty cool music video just of that footage. But yeah, it's a really good point. We want to improve the system. We all of us do better if somebody's having a hard time getting to the polls, we should be concerned about that too. We should be concerned about each other, not just ourselves.
Okay, so Carl Summer, who was the one who asked about the preferential voting, says he used to have a former roommate that always got olive and pineapple pizza, and I gotta say that actually sounds kind of good. Like I would like to try that. I think the next time we have a rehearsal in person, let's give it a shot.
Maybe the theory is no one will steal your pizza.
There was a girl in middle school who she would always just drench her French fries in pepper because we had like the little birds who would flit around they were people, but they were like little birds who flitted around the cafeteria and asked to like borrow pieces of people's lunches. They didn't just bring their own; they just like ate your French fries.
I don't know why I pictured actual birds.
Yeah.
Because they kind of like fly up and just be like, "Can I have a fry?"
I think there was a court case about poisoning and like booby trapping, where somebody, like a coworker, was stealing their lunch, and so it was like a curry or something, and they just made it like extremely spicy, and like
That's
for
hilarious.
them, if the person ate their own food, it would have been like, oh, this is pretty spicy, but I can handle this. But for another person not used to it, it was like way too much, like potentially unhealthy, I guess. And I think the case was around like, you knew I was gonna eat it, you knew I was gonna steal your food. Why, you can't put that much spice in food I'm gonna steal from you.
I feel like that's exactly the kind of lack of personal responsibility that we're suffering from in this country right now. If you're gonna steal food, you have to be prepared to suffer the consequences.
Well, there are consequences that are not proportional, in which case then you can both be assholes.
Yeah.
Okay, don't put arsenic in it.
Yeah.
Right.
Unless you have a tolerance to arsenic, in which case.
Which you might.
Well,
Fair point. If you were hemlocking yourself and you do put your daily dose of hemlock into it, that seems to me to be fair.
Yeah. I think I have a toss up here on the YouTube comments between, and I'm gonna go with, I think between far right conspiracy theories and Cymatic. I actually want to see about. Cymatic is suggesting that in enumerating all the freedoms around protest, we missed the one freedom that allows us to secure all those freedoms, the same one the English tried to take away right before the Revolution, and thank God they weren't successful.
That would only apply if that freedom was also recognized universally.
Yeah. You want to elaborate on that?
I imagine he's talking about the Second Amendment. And I am a firm believer of the Second Amendment, but I also believe that the Second Amendment should be recognized universally as far as particular demographics. Certain demographics are not allowed to exercise their Second Amendment rights without being perceived a threat, and are often perceived a threat without even exhibiting that right.
Yeah, with deadly consequences in a lot of cases. Yeah. And it's interesting tying that back to lobbies too. If you look at sort of the large lobby organization, the lobbying wing of the National Rifle Association has a really interesting history throughout sort of mid 20th century of basically advocating and saying, yeah, everybody should be armed. Everybody should
Except
be armed.
those
and
guys.
Then realizing, oh no, we don't want everybody to be armed. That's not exactly what we meant. And doing kind of a big flip on that, and you really can sort of see how lobbying, it's one thing to say, yeah, Second Amendment, everybody should have the right, but how that actually plays out can be really nuanced, and it's worth looking at the real world consequences and implications of stuff like that. Cool. So far right conspiracy theories. Super Dave 420. What do you make of the far right conspiracy theories?
Bring it in. I love them. They're amazing.
No.
They're hilarious. I'm also quite fond of the hilarious left wing conspiracy theories.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like what? Like what?
I don't know. I don't even really want to give them any, I don't really want to give any of them any credence or audience.
They would be hilarious if they weren't becoming such a negative impact on so much of our discourse. And it is kind of scary that they are getting mainstream so much. In the case of some of them, like QAnon, I think there is a really good case to be made for it basically being the descendant of other conspiracy theories over history that have basically are ways of masking an anti-Semitic and racist trope in saying that there's these shady individuals that we may or may not name as Jews or globalists or whatever, and then put a bunch of other stuff in front of there and get people into it. But there's enough of a case there that this is basically the way that conspiracy theories have been used in order to sort of subtly promote suspicions of this shady other unnamed thing without evidence that a lot of times turns into the Jews.
Yeah, especially since a lot of the individuals who are pushing these silly and sometimes dangerous conspiracy theories are shady individuals themselves. I mean, the whole Pizzagate thing was just ridiculous.
And I used to laugh a lot more about the Pizzagate thing, but then I grew up in D.C. and a guy with a gun came up from North Carolina to D.C. If you've ever made that drive armed and angry about a conspiracy theory, this guy did. He came up and he went to the pizza place and he demanded to see the basement that doesn't exist, and he fired off a round, and thankfully nobody got hurt. And then he was taken into custody and quoted later as saying, I think I've made a mistake.
Well,
I think I made a mistake on this one.
At least he had the luxury of being taken into custody.
Oh yeah. Yep. And thankfully, he didn't hurt or kill anybody. But it gets more real to me, and I think, we're on the internet right now. I mean, God, like, I'm on the internet. All four of us are on the internet, and the internet's a weird place. And I think there's forces at work, and I say forces at work. A lot of it is not, a lot of it's just human nature. Like, you see something on the internet, you might be primed to distrust it. You also might be primed to accept it without questioning it. And I don't know. I think on some level people might think, well, it's just sort of silly because it's not really real, and it doesn't really have any consequences. So I always like to remind people, like, no, this is real stuff involving real people, so it does matter what you believe.
Yeah, the silliest of concepts have very serious consequences.
And it ruffles my feathers that there's so many people going for the stuff that has, like, these silly add-ons, like they're from Hollywood or something, that, like, that's what gets them. Rather than, like, basically what I would call actual conspiracies that are right in front of our faces. I think it is true that there are rich and powerful people that are screwing us over. And if you want to find out how they're doing it, it's there. It's not necessarily something that they have to hide, because it does not involve eating people's faces or drinking blood. It involves sending lobbyists to Congress to write the new tax code the way that they want. And it's right there. And yet there's these people that want to, like, feed their sense of injustice by following something that is way less plausible and less and has no evidence, based on these, like, weird narratives about things that are really like from some sort of weird script that should raise red flags in your skepticism about like, wait a minute, extreme theories require extreme amounts of evidence,
Yeah.
and you
Right.
should have that there.
Yeah, especially if you start talking about reptilians, shapeshifters, and flat Earths, and
Well, you know, that
then
stuff's
you
real.
pretty much
Wall
lost me.
life.
Yeah. No, but the flat Earth thing for me always comes back to critical thinking, because not everybody necessarily learned this, but like there are basic mathematical proofs. There are simple experiments that were done hundreds, thousands of years ago to determine the curvature of the Earth, and that's stuff that you can do if you just sit down and think about it and use reason and ask questions. So for me, it's not a question of, well, I went up into a plane one time and everything looked a little curvy, or like every pilot knows that the Earth is round. You can actually use critical thinking and deduce this for yourself, and do your own research can be kind of abused, because sometimes people will say, do your own research, and then they'll say, but do specifically only this research and only look at this.
I've been doing all this great
Or do all the
This is
research
YouTube.
on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My pandemic research was particularly useful.
I mean, we're on YouTube, like that should.
And Twitch, that balances it all out.
And Twitch and
Yeah,
Facebook.
I don't want to be getting all my scientific research from
Me?
the same place I go for my cat videos.
That's right. Although scientists have great cats, though, I've found that's often true. But I do want to say this, though. I feel like if a conspiracy theory is like a virus, it's one for which I don't think there's a vaccine, because they do kind of keep changing and evolving and mutating and say, okay, well, we can't be this obvious with our anti-Semitism, so let's change it up and let's make it look like this, and now it's the 21st century and things do change. But I think you can strengthen your resistance if you personally ever feel like, I don't know if I'm susceptible to these theories, like how do I know if I'm being led down a way? I feel like generally just like don't give in to fear is a big part of it. If you're being manipulated through fear, somebody might be profiting from that or whatever, but try to avoid that. And if music is a thing that gets you back on track, feeling good about the world, do whatever works. But I think you have to fight it and keep up your immunity in the same way that you would with a virus.
Yeah,
I'll
which
say
is
this
not
from-
a conspiracy theory.
Which
Also,
is
stuff you
not
can
a
get
conspiracy
through
theory.
critical
Sorry,
That
a
is-
conspiracy theory is like a virus. The virus is not a conspiracy theory.
Right.
I need to say
That's
that
right.
out loud.
Exactly.
Wink, wink. There is no conspiracy by musicians to make people feel better. Okay, that is just.
Yeah.
Don't even think about that. We're not doing that. So, from a Gangstagrass perspective, I certainly have been having a harder time lately, wading through the divisiveness that like lots of misinformation or all of the information that's just basically suited to increase fear or to show people the worst in others rather than the best in others, and seeing a lot of people that we've had the opportunity to have a really wide breadth of people and positions and locations that we're exposed to as Gangstagrass traveling around the country. And it is worrisome out there. I do see people slipping more towards fear, more towards not seeing the good in people whose opinions are different, and basically assigning things of saying, I think you are actually trying to destroy this country, like, and just kind of buying into these narratives after seeing these like bits of either bad information or just manipulative information from social media so much.
Yeah, I mean, it allows people to streamline all of the points of view into one direction, so that they're seeing only people that think like them or bolster that. And since most of these social media platforms are built around an algorithm, and that's, for those of you that don't know, when I'm not doing music, I'm doing algorithms. That's basically my job. And these algorithms are framed in order to feed you advertising, to sell you stuff. And what they've done is they've figured out that people that think along certain pathways are most susceptible to buying certain products or spending their money on different things. So the best way they can magnify the amount of stuff you buy is to feed more things that align to that algorithm, because people who are in distress tend to spend more money frivolously. This is all, based upon getting you to cough up your dollar or francs or euros I say francs, euros. They don't use francs anymore.
Does somebody use a franc? I forget.
I feel like somebody might still. Like, what about, like, I don't know, Guyana or something?
I'm gonna bring it back, man. I'm bringing it back.
Bring back the franc.
Yeah, sorry. We ended up in another window.
Right,
But
it's
me
true.
too.
but the algorithm is based. It's all about, it brings it back to the commerce of things and capitalizing off of your fears, your anxieties, and also getting you to make choices that are against your own interests, so they can also capitalize on that. So whenever you look at some huge problem that seems to be affecting huge swaths of people, don't necessarily, yes, be concerned about the people it affects, but also think primarily, who does this problem benefit?
It's really interesting.
And that's usually where you find the source of it.
Yeah, it's like follow the money in journalism.
Right.
Speaking of the money, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, and most of Francophone
the Swiss
Africa.
franc, obviously.
Yeah, which is a big one, and also Liechtenstein, but most of Francophone Africa, most of the countries in Africa that are French-speaking countries use franc unit.
Fact checks always useful. But so we went up to Philly, the first and second times that we've actually all been in the same distanced place since February, and also I've been really, really hardcore sequestered, so I've basically not been out of my house pretty much at all since March, and as I was driving up, I noticed that not every, but absolutely no question, over 85% of the billboards that I saw, the advertising that I was seeing on billboards, was about safety. It was playing on what you need in order to keep your family safe, in order to keep yourself safe, and this was across products. Even stuff that you wouldn't ordinarily associate with safety, which is just, I thought, a really clear illustration of how, yes, you could say commerce follows the situation, but also where commerce can successfully follow a situation of fear and make money off of it does not very well incentivize the calming of that fear.
And I just want to point out that these are billboards that it's ironic that you'd see these billboards about safety while you're driving a car.
Driving in Philadelphia, no less.
Well, sure. But in general, driving is often, when people make comparisons about safety statistics, it's important to understand, the relevance and sort of relative safety of things, and put it in perspective. When somebody says X thing kills Y number of people every Z years, okay, that sounds bad. Death is bad. Death is scary. But in what is that compared with, for instance, automobile accidents?
Can I please make a sidebar point on this? This is the most fascinating thing I've learned this week. So I was looking at the numbers, as you guys know I do,
and I looked up the number of car accident fatalities in the United States in an average year. And generally speaking, it was under 40,000, but let's round up and call it 40,000. I kept seeing 38,000 number, but let's call it 40,000. So 40,000 automobile accident deaths a year. And that comes to, not far off of 100, 110 a day. We have already lost close to 200,000 people. We're creeping up on 190,000 people to COVID in just 6 months. That's about 1,000 people a day. So 10 times the number of people per day are dying of COVID as died of car accidents. And just to throw another one out there, in a really, really bad flu year, bad flu year, I want to say 2017, where they actually threw around the word pandemic, 90,000 was the absolute top estimate of how many people died in America from the flu. So twice as many people have died of COVID in the last 6 months than died in the worst flu year in recent memory at the absolute high end estimate of what that number was in that flu year.
Right.
So those are the kind of, just for comparison numbers,
And
10 times more than automobile accidents and twice as many as a really bad flu year.
And as with a lot of these comparisons, I think it's important to bear in mind there's often a point behind framing numbers in a certain way. And perhaps now one point could be, not saying this is your point, but one could be this is something to be taken seriously. Like if you were taking the Spanish flu seriously, if you were taking automobile accidents seriously, which I would argue a lot of people don't take as seriously as they should. But if you are taking these death tolls seriously, this one is demonstrably higher than those. So, you know, maybe there's a point there.
If 10 times the number of people were dying from car accidents every single day, maybe we would take that seriously.
I don't know.
Maybe we wouldn't.
Maybe
We wouldn't. I mean,
It's worth at least
psychology,
noticing.
our brains are funny things, right? Like
Yeah.
we worry a lot more about shark attacks than we do about heart disease. And there's just like, there's no competition. Why people are not putting a lot of energy towards worrying about heart disease? It's just not
I know
that
why.
exciting compared to a shark attack.
I know why. It's because heart disease, you don't hear heart disease doesn't sound like dun
Yeah, right.
You know, if that happened every time somebody had a heart attack, I think it would be talked about in a different way.
Uh-huh.
So we got some great ones on the YouTube comments. Way to go, YouTube! You know, our YouTube comments are like better than the average YouTube comments. I really have to say, I got some good ones here. And I think definitely toss this one to Dolio. From Carl Summer again, what are smart and realistic regulations you'd hope would be applied to big tech?
That's a very broad question.
That would be an entire show, to be honest. As a person who's been in tech for 20 years, oh God, I'm old. Actually longer than that, if you count the time I was in college. I've basically been in the internet since there was out there. That is a very, very long and complicated answer. Because those of us who have worked the deepest in it are also the most afraid of it. We know that we're constantly edging closer and closer to what we call the singularity. And I'm not sure how much regulation would be able to curb that. What I feel like a lot of the reforms that we could put into our election process would curb the influence that big tech has on our election, on our public policy, because we run the risk of the companies that, well, college don't count, is what Super David's saying. You wouldn't necessarily say that if you had my college experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, my college experience was a crash course in deep tech.
Your college, the name of your college, I'm not going to say it, but it rhymes with MIT, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so involved, and the thing is that big tech is involved in just about everything now. From there's not a device that is being made for your everyday consumer that is not being made smart nowadays. And a lot of those things don't necessarily need to be smart. I keep a bunch of dumb devices because of the fact that I know I don't want a lot of this stuff tracking everything that I do, because I know that's what a lot of it does. Because I've read the code. Shoot, so depending on what company I was working for, I might have written the code. But as far as the regulations, I think it's more so about making sure that there's transparency. I'm a big fan of open source technology, because open source is more democratic as far as the development. It tends to be more robust as it comes to security, because what happens is that when the code source is open, when their vulnerability appears, the people who the broad source of the development community finds those holes and they are patched. They get, it's like since everybody is using it and everyone has an incentive for it to be safe and robust. So I'm a big fan of open source because a lot of proprietary stuff has a lot of flaws. You probably notice that when you're dealing with stuff that is highly proprietary. When it comes out, there's all these different patches that need to come out to update it every couple of weeks sometimes, because the idea is to get it fast to the customer and to keep it locked away so they don't know what's in the guts.
And I don't know if this ties in too, Dolio, but if you were following the Iowa primary earlier this year, and I think that this was really a tech in voting issue, because if I remember correctly, they had just rolled out, and it was partially a testing. It was early testing, like they hadn't really. I don't think they necessarily had the training or protocols or a lot of. There were. I think it sounded like there were a lot of problems, but Iowa in their primary, they were running a new app that they had just put together.
This is the caucuses, right?
Yes, yeah, that. Which some other time, somebody helped me through caucusing, but yeah, I think that was ultimately like, yeah, we have this like anytime somebody says, yeah, we have this great new app, you got to have some questions about that, right?
Yeah, well, for me, when it comes to things like the voting apps, the important thing about this is the security, which is where blockchain is coming out, is becoming very useful in things like that, because I know it's mostly been touted as this thing for cryptocurrency and everything, but where it's more valuable is in its ability to encrypt and to ensure secure transactions. So you'll more than likely start seeing that getting employed when they start moving voting to, I guess, an online platform or an app-based platform, which again will require a significant amount of transparency in whatever board is approving these, because it's not too difficult to put in malicious code if you have the wherewithal to do so and have infiltrated an organization or a team.
Right.
That's why I say that's a very long, complicated conversation.
Yep.
Yeah, and sorry, I'm just seeing some more stuff in the YouTube chat. But yeah, I will put a pin in that, and I feel like we could have an entire conversation about that in itself. And I think I would like to get some of my colleagues on board for that.
Yeah, that would be an excellent conversation, by the way. I would be 100% down for that. You know, I mean, and talking about blockchain too, that's something that we've talked about in terms of music distribution, even potentially. Oh, Dolio's reading the comments.
Sorry.
Don't read the comments, man.
They did.
All
Yes,
right.
it's gotten pretty deep up in here.
Yeah, we're into conspiracy theories and the burden of proof. I do want to.
Well, it's hard because there's people. Please recognize there's 3 different chat rooms we're trying to keep up with right now.
It's true. Yeah, if you want to follow us, folks, if you're on Twitch, we're also on Facebook and YouTube. If you're on Facebook, check these out. You know, we're trying to sort of move people over to Twitch, but we realize a lot of you are on Facebook, a lot of you on YouTube. But yeah, you want to see some wild comments. YouTube always brings it with the wild comments. A lot of good ones, and so far it's been civil conversation, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, and hey, if you're an Instagram user, even though we are not streaming to Instagram, next time you're on your Instagrams, follow at Gangstagrass, because we've been posting some amazing things like that avocado that Dolio had with the giant pit.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Folks, you got to follow us on Instagram because we post the avocado with the giant pit. We got it, and it's only there. So check it out.
That's right.
Yeah, I was trying to make some wasakaka and I ended up just putting it on tacos.
Yeah. Oh, sweet. We just got $10.
Aw,
Wait,
thanks, Nuvi.
that's a thing you can do?
Looks like
That's
we
super
just,
dope.
looks like we just got money.
I did not know that was a thing.
Cool. Cool. Oh, you know what else is a thing? I want to quickly just drop again a reminder that it is once again Bandcamp Friday.
Oh, that's right. But you have to do it like right now, and maybe it's too late.
No. It's midnight Pacific time, so you've got until 3 a.m. if you're on Eastern.
Are you totally sure about that? Because I
No.
actually bought Dolio's album Aural Impetus on Bandcamp during one of the sales when it had just come out, and I bought it at like around this time, maybe it was 10:30 at night, and it seemed like it didn't count. So let's just, I mean, you should support your favorite artists no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, if a revenue share is
and
preventing you
follow
from
them
buying
and-
music, you know. But well, let me double check. I'm pretty sure it's midnight to midnight Pacific. Anyway, we are trying to feature everybody's projects, and right now we're trying to feature Dolio's projects, including his brand new this year Aural Impetus album.
Yeah.
So make sure
It's
to get on
amazing.
that. Check
That's
that out.
Aural. Aural impetus.
Aural, relating to the ears or sound.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, boy, YouTube is just got conspiracy theory stuff and money.
Oh, I got it right. Yay,
That's great.
Nuvi.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. You want to talk about burden of proof? We don't have to, but that's kind of a good one.
Well, there's also multiple. Well, it also depends on what a person means when they say theory. Scientists, when we speak of theory, it usually means a proposition that has yet to be disproven, such as the theory of gravity.
Although I was just talking to somebody about this today with a lot of excitement about the fact that not too long ago, there was a big experiment that finally actually detected gravity waves.
Right.
Waves, you say?
Yes. Isn't that crazy? Which is actually a ripple in space-time is a gravity wave. And we managed to detect one.
That's the greatest news I've heard yet. 2020 might
gotta
well
say.
just be like we might be able to fix this after
Mm-hmm.
all.
Yes, it's
Which
true.
is-
Like, in our
yeah.
lifetimes, there have been some amazing scientific steps forward for humanity.
I'm sorry, don't you
Yeah,
mean scientific
and it helps
conspiracy
because
theories?
when you, it also helps today because when you're measuring a force of something, you're also measuring its acceleration, which is its trajectory of space through time.
Hmm.
Yeah. Super Dave mentioned something, so we're talking about scientific theories. Super Dave also mentions music theory or chord theory, which
Right.
I follow.
There's a different ways. That's also different uses of the term theory, but
Right.
not the same as the science.
Not
and
exactly.
waves too.
What's that?
And waves too.
And
Right.
waves, right? And
You're
music
leaving
theory.
off part of his username, which is SuperDave420.
Sorry.
He also says clone and then says he might be a cone head, or ice cream. So I would like to ask SuperDave420 a question back, which is SuperDave420, are you high right now?
What does the 420 mean in your name?
Are you high right now?
It's probably Dave's birthday. Why are you making assumptions?
There were 419 other Super Daves.
Well, it is. I just looked at the date, and
Got
it
lucky.
is September. It is 9/4/20 right now.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh snap!
So how about that? But yeah, music theory is interesting because it's sort of the way that we organize our thoughts around music, and it can be something that you think about in terms of, I wonder, I'm going to make these chords go this way because I understand that there's this structure that I want to use. Or it could be something that you use after the fact to say, I just did these chords because they sound good, but actually, let's analyze this and say, it follows this framework. So music theory is more of a culturally developed framework that's based on simple small number mathematic ratios of pitches, and then incorporating an equal temperament system. So it's a little bit more complicated, but scientific theories are really where it's at.
Yeah, well, yeah. The difference between the whole, I guess, the uses of music theory is also the separation between music theory and music practice.
Yeah.
So, and that's just in the separation of theory and practice of any particular discipline.
Yeah. Well, there are multiple music theories too. I mean, oftentimes in our culture, we're referring to Western music theory, which is the one I'm the most familiar with. But there are multiple, different cultures have developed different musical frameworks, and they don't necessarily make sense to each other because they're based on different, sort of focusing on different ideas.
Seriously, can we tell Nuvi about our trips to Fermilab?
I
Sorry,
just mentioned it
jumped
in the
out of the
YouTube comments.
But this is one of the, I'm always very annoyingly trying to look on the bright side. It's extremely irritating, and I realize that. And yeah, right.
I got Monty Python in my head now.
Always gone bright. Yeah. So one of the silver linings of this whole pandemic time has been that everybody else gets a glimpse into the actual conversations that are going on when we're traveling from venue to venue.
Mhm.
This is not out of the ordinary at all. I mean, we don't usually have special guests pop in. That is a nice bonus,
Yeah.
and we might keep that forever and ever. But sometimes we do have special guests hop in, and like we had a fiddle player who did a couple gigs with us who was didn't he like design some kind of awesome app,
Mhm.
so we had a bunch of tech talk going on during that particular run. And it's great that everybody finally gets to see that this is actually what's happening behind the scenes. This is really what's going on. But we went to Fermilab.
Super Dave said,
twice.
I'm a farmer, quality control, which out of context is a very innocuous thing to say.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm a big fan of I'm a big fan of agriculture in general, being a country boy myself and being a guy who tends to grow a lot of his own food.
Mm-hmm.
Tony made some amazing grape jelly.
You got to test it out, make sure it's good too. So product control is important, and I'm glad Super Dave is doing it right now.
Yep. Yes. I listen to Gangstagrass music a lot. I think it's important to sample your own product.
That's right. And Dan's favorite song on the album.
Right.
Yep. And I played it last time because last time we had the guest MC, Randall Wyatt. We had him on this talk. And if anybody missed that was just last week. But if you missed it, you should go back through the archives. It's a terrific conversation. Randall's a hell of a guy and a terrific musician.
And he's working on something called Take Ownership PDX, where he's helping to ensure that people aren't getting or are more able to retain their homes in the face of gentrification by helping out with renovations, and he's got all sorts of stuff going on with it. But Taking Ownership PDX, check it out. And if you know of licensed and bonded contractors in the Portland, Oregon area, definitely get in touch with him, especially about that, because they're always looking for partners to work with.
And if you're not somebody who happens to know licensed bonded contractors in the Portland area, that's probably most of us. And in fact, maybe most of us are hearing very little about Portland, but what you do hear might be from news organizations that might be painting a kind of a limited picture that might be somewhat misleading or distorted. And that's one of the most important things. I like to be featuring him and his project just because that's something that's really going on in Portland, and we know it's going on because we know him. He's a real person that we know. Like, we met him when we were there. We went there and we met him. And I think that's important just because a lot of people, you might not have a whole lot of connection to Portland, Oregon. You might not have ever been there or know anybody there, and you might be inclined to just kind of listen to whatever people say about it. So it's important that we say that this and that projects like this are happening there. There's good people doing good things, and that's really important.
Yeah, and in a time when I mean, there's never been a time in history where there weren't crazy stuff going on, but in a time where we have so much negativity being thrown at us at all, 24 hours a day, nonstop, through almost every type of media that exists, digital, radio, television, internet, everything, print. It helps to highlight the people who are doing good work out there, the people who are sending positive energy out there, because that's one of the things that we've been trying to do since we started this whole thing, was just to spread this positive vibe and also get people together. We try to bring people together of all ages, all demographics, and get them together doing the work, building the love. We're sorry, I'm just
No,
don't want to get emotional here.
That's it.
no, man,
Yeah,
it's
man.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love Wendy in the comments said best fly on the wall conversations ever. And Wendy, I mean, you're not a fly on the wall. You're a person in the room. That's one of the things that's so cool about this forum. We actually are able to engage and discuss questions that are brought up in the chat, and we're really having this conversation, and that's the super important thing that's happening here, and that's part of the whole the vote idea, and why we care so much about civic participation. And it's the conversations that are happening between people in all sorts of forums, us and you guys now, and the you and your families and friends, and all those conversations that are happening, that is what's gonna make the changes, make the differences, make the world happier.
And Wendy's
better.
actually contributing a lot. There's a lot of just talking about moral codes of profit sharing, making equitable deals with creative partners, acknowledging every value of thought that brings elements of success need to have value. Every element we benefit from must be included with the success of the whole. I mean, that's a lot of the stuff that we're talking about civically, but it just seems like she's really bringing that back to be about music and about sort of music industry reform, which is
not just even music industry, but a lot of industries where a lot of people contribute a lot of ideas and a lot of thoughts, and are not really brought in on the profit that's made from those, which I may refer you back to a song called 9 to 5 by Dolly Parton for some elucidation on that.
Yeah, and a song called Go You 100, talking about what was the phrasing, every element we benefit from must be included with the success of the whole. Kind of similar concept there. And Justin, I don't want to mispronounce this. I'm going to call it Prius. It's probably not Prius.
I'd go with Prus.
Prus, yeah. Yeah. All right. Is asking.
So Justin missed a lot of what Dolio said before, and I'm guessing also was not here for last week's discussion with Randall Wyatt.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Definitely go back in the archives and check that out, and Taking
good,
Ownership PDX, and you'll see what we're talking about.
It's a good question, though, about are there black-owned contracting companies that can be promoted, and in the specific context of what's going on in Portland, I would really refer that back to Randall Wyatt, and I'm sure he's working on that. But it's also just a good general question.
Oh, it's Price.
Close.
Ah.
We tried.
Okay. If I had had my German filter on, I would have caught that. But
we got Nuvi though, so that's something.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure that they're probably local to wherever people live. There will be companies anywhere.
So let's give a shout out to if people want to see some of our previous live streamed. If you're enjoying these conversations and weren't around for last week or before that, I think some of them are archived on Facebook and YouTube. On the Twitch stream, if you're subscribed to our Twitch stream, then you will have access to the archives, and also to tune in again next week, Friday, the 11th. We will have another special guest, Katie Romick. She's a political director at CWA and can talk to us about organizing, about the union, and about efforts to incorporate anti-racism into the union organizing.
That's going
to be a cool conversation next week.
All right, and and for the I guess the main Twitch stream, which all of this is being mirrored from, is at gangstagrass.tv.
That's right. You can go to gangstagrass.tv. There are streams Tuesdays at 9 p.m., Fridays at 9 p.m., and that's these discussions. And Saturdays, I believe tomorrow the Dolio dance party?
Oh yeah, I'll be
3
spinning
p.m.
spinning the ones and twos.
Is this going to be some protest songs, maybe a little bit?
Perhaps. I haven't quite figured out. Well, I've got some vague set in my head, but you know, who knows? It might just, depending on how I feel, we might just do some booty shaking.
Nice. It's always great. At Saturdays at 3 p.m., Dolio and Wrench switch off, and that is actually my workout music.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. I wish they do it every day, but that would be asking a little much. So I just have to go back in the archives on Twitch and watch it. But also notimeforenemies.com. So that's the new album. So if you like, you know, what you were hearing, or if you like just even having this kind of discourse, even if you don't agree with everything, that's cool. We don't all agree with each other on everything, but that kind of discourse is what's being promoted and what's really very forward in the new album, No Time for Enemies, as evidenced by the title, which was also come up with on this very stream several months ago. So yeah, go to No Time for Enemies, and I really want to encourage everybody to buy CDs. I know this sounds like a total throwback, but the design is really cool. An amazing artist, Fahim, worked on that, and it looks great, and it's a cover with oriented strand board, which is that kind of stuff that they, you know, board up windows with, and it's just very much of the time. The whole album is so very now and where we're headed and where we want to be headed. So the reason I'm encouraging you to buy CDs, you know, by all means stream and save the album and share it and YouTube it and all of that stuff, but the charts are still really oriented toward physical sales. So a single CD, if you really want to, you know, make a mark for the band, a single CD is the equivalent of somewhere, depending on how the streams are counted, what kind of streams they are, somewhere between 1 and 4,000 streams approximately is the power of one single physical CD when it comes to the charts.
And that's just one. So imagine if you paid a low price for one CD and then you were like, that was such a low price. I could easily afford paying that 2 to 5 times, especially if there was a bulk discount deal. Then you go to our store and you see some of those packages. And when I say packages, I mean we're literally packaging like 2. That's a package. You buy one, you buy another one, you give it to your friend, and, you know, that makes it twice as effective in terms of how it counts on the charts. So you're really making a difference. You know, you're getting us up there. We also have, like, the 100 counts if you want to go nuts.
That's right. Call us if you want a 100 count. We got you.
Yeah.
But
Giving
seriously,
people
you know,
gifts is an amazing thing to do, and it really feels good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So notimeforenemies.com, gangstagrass.tv, and tomorrow at 3 p.m. At gangstagrass.tv, we're going to hear Dolio spinning some amazingness as usual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what a great conversation tonight, you guys. Really, Lulu was awesome. Thanks for bringing her in, Wrench.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very good.
Proud of the comments, folks. Bringing in the comments.
Good comments. Good chatting with everybody. We're so happy to see you here. And we'll see you again tomorrow at 3 o'clock for the dance party, and again next week on Tuesday and Friday nights. And we're gonna have some more fun together.
Yeah, and those CDs should go out like next week.
Next week.
Yep.
Yeah.
So maybe by the time we see you again Friday, they should be going out.
Yeah.
Getting mailed. It's exciting. G the vote.
Yeah. All right. Shall we call it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Peace, y'all.
Do we need to wave our hands again, like at the beginning?
Goodbye.